Hey guys, what is going on here? It is Brooke, or the Undead DM, back at it again with another video, and today we're going to be covering the first subclass for the Pugilist class by Benjamin Huffman, known as Arena Royale. Now, if you guys saw my last video, you know my general thoughts on the Pugilist class as a whole. Overall, it's not as strong as Monk, and with what they did in the new 1D&D playtests for the most recent version, they really nerfed monks into the ground, but this is still a far cry from what monks are even in that playtest. So, yeah, we're just gonna jump straight into this. And remember, if you like the video, leave a comment, like, subscribe. There will be more episodes to come, and hopefully that next time we will be going over the pugilist math versus the monk math, and we will see how it compares. Anyway, let's get started. So, the first Fight Club is what it is known in the Pugilists as their subclass's name, is the Arena Royale, and this is essentially themed after like a lucha libre. These are wrestlers, and to start, you get proficiency in the performance skill, and if you don't already have it. But if you do, you can gain proficiency with either intimidation or persuasion. It doesn't give you any stipulation if you already have proficiency with any of these three skill or all three of these skills, which kind of is interesting, but it's fine. It's just a flavor thing. Your persona libre. Basically, what this is as a bonus action, you can become your persona, your wrestling persona, and you get a separate pool of points known as persona points, and you have a number of them equal to 3 plus your charisma. So at maximum, you can have 8, which once again, this kind of makes this a multi-ability score reliant class now if you're picking the subclass, because you have to have constitution for your iron chin, and then you also have to have strength for your fisticuffs, and now you also have to have charisma for the subclass in order to use your abilities more often. But essentially that's how it would be, but persona points basically just allow you to use them in place of your moxie. So you basically can have 8 additional Moxie at any point if you choose this subclass and you have a maxed out Charisma, which I don't know why you would, but on average you're probably going to have maybe 5 additional points, maybe 6. And you only regain them on a long rest, which I think as opposed to the Moxie, where you gain them back on a shorter long rest, it's not that big of a buffer, but it's not something that you'd want to be using every time because it does take your bonus action. Which, I mean, you're not really using all that much, but just to don the persona and then all you get for it really is points. And before you make a charisma ability check, you can spend a point and add your strength to the result. You can just add your strength modifier to any charisma based ability check by spending a point. It's fine. It's not really going to come up all that much, but it's always nice to have a buffer for your like intimidation checks if you want to or something. Work the crowd. This is essentially at level 6 you get an AoE either fear or charm, and they have to make a DC 8 plus proficiency plus strength. Otherwise, be charmed or frightened. It lasts for a minute. Same standard procedures. So if the creature gets damaged from you or your allies, they can repeat the save, and you can only use it once per short or long rest. I think for an area of effect fear or charm, this needs to be once like proficiency bonus number of times per short or long rest, because this is really going towards the short or long rest route. So if we're really going to go with the short or long rest abilities, we need this to be a short or long rest. Yes, it is a 30-foot area fear or charm effect, which is fine, but generally fear is better, and this is what's I think is causing it to be a once per long rest, because an AoE fear is still pretty good, but the fact that they can repeat the saves makes sense. But it only being once per short or long rest, or once per short. Oh, it is once per short or long rest. I apologize. Recant everything that I just said. It is once per short or long rest. But I think you should be able to at least spend a Moxie point or 2 Moxie points to use it. Or maybe a Persona point if we're going with that. High Flyer. You basically get fast movement from Barbarian like 6 levels later. So you get an extra 10 feet of movement speed, your jump distance is doubled, and you can take the dash action as a bonus action. Okay, so the extra 10 feet of movement's fine. The dash action as a bonus action is perfectly fine because it's free. You don't have to spend Moxie to do it. But the jump distance doubling, it doesn't say that you negate fall damage. Because in case you guys are unaware, fall damage is calculated for every 10 feet you fall past, or every 5 feet you fall past. No, it's 10. It's 10, I apologize. So for every 10 feet you fall past the initial 10 feet that you would have been able to jump, you take a d6 fall damage. That is in the rules. There's nothing that states that it is negated when you jump. Meaning Herringons and anyone with the jump spell, they just get screwed over by really high jump height. And because it's just a thing that states that your jump distance is doubled, that means you can jump further, but you can also jump higher. Because you really can't jump further distance without having additional height added to it. We call that a long jump, but even then it's not that good. I would personally... This is fine. I think if they just removed this portion about your jump distance being doubled, it would be fine. And then finally at level 17, you get your signature move. So, how this works is that you can name your signature move, and it can look like whatever you want. It can do basically like a WWE style, like a slam or something of that nature. But you have to replace one of your attacks to do it. So what that means is that out of the 2 attacks that you can make on your turn as an action, and then the 2 attacks you can make using the old one too, you can use your signature move. And when you use your signature move, you have to make an attack roll with it. So when you use your signature move, you can jump in any direction up to your speed and make an attack roll at advantage against a creature within that range. It says within your reach, meaning that if you have the ability to, like if you're a bugbear and your fists have a reach of 10 feet, that means you can really only travel like 25 feet and you'll get there just fine. And on a hit, you score a critical hit, and the creature is stunned until the end of your next turn. And if you hit a creature with your signature move, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest, but if you miss with your signature move, you get a use back after 1 minute. Okay, this is a 17th level ability. Mind you, this is the same level that spellcasters, particularly wizards, are turning people into dragons in the new 1D&D playtest. I think even before then they're turning people into dragons. And all you get is you score a critical hit and you stun them. This is not a powerful ability, especially once per long rest if you hit. This is a short or long rest class. A signature move like this, it should basically stop the fight right then and there. If it's a one-on-one fight, this should end it right then and there. This should immediately knock the creature unconscious if you hit. No save, it just happens. If you hit, they drop to 0 hit points. And they cannot do something to get hit points back. Like if they're half work, they can't use their relentless endurance to get back up. It just, bam, they're done. But this, it's just, oh, you deal double the dice and they're stunned, which is honestly an okay condition to keep people from going anywhere. But it's not gonna help you. Because, yeah, they're stunned, they can't move, awesome. But you know what does the same thing as stunned, but actually helps you since now you're in melee? Paralyzed. It grants you advantage on attack rolls against a paralyzed creature, but if you're in melee with them, you score a critical hit on all of your attacks if you are within melee. If this paralyzed on a failed save, like if this was a saved base ability and it paralyzed, this would still not be that good. It needs more than, because right now signature move just doesn't do enough. It doesn't do enough damage. It doesn't do enough crowd control. It only works on one person. It's to hit. You're sacrificing one of your attacks to do it. And on top of that, if you already used your 2 attacks this turn to hit the creature anyway, and then you use your old one too, now you're spending a moxie point to essentially use your signature move. And all it gets you is a creature who is now stunned. So, to put this into perspective, a caster can essentially cast Hold Person at least like 14 levels before this ability and grant you, the Pugilist, critical hits on all of your melee weapon attacks. All of them. Every single one, as long as that creature is paralyzed. But 14 levels later, you get the ability to critically strike on one weapon attack. You're now in melee. You give them a condition that, granted, is better than a lot of other conditions, but doesn't give you any direct benefit for being in melee range, which this ability does. And it's only once per long rest. If you could just use this once per turn, fine. Fine. But even then, it's still not good. If a creature could only be affected by this like once per turn, or once per round, or maybe once per combat, or once it's used against them, they're immune to it for 24 hours. Fine. If it does something more than just extra damage and a mediocre condition once per long rest, it would be better, but it's still not going to be as good as somebody pointing at your dude and going, "You're a gold dragon now. You can deal 90 points of damage with your fire breath," which is more damage than your puny signature move could ever hope to do. So some changes here. I think the persona really needs to be a free action. You're wasting your bonus action. Yes, it's free and you're getting additional points, but to spend a possible damage output opportunity to don a mask in order to get more points doesn't make up for the DPR loss that you are losing by doing this. It's the same issue as Bloodhunter. Sure, you're going to make up for it eventually, but it's going to take too long to get to that point. Most combats don't go past 5 rounds. Most of them don't even go past 3. So this needs to be a free action, and it just needs to give you additional points. Or, hell, it doesn't even need to give you additional points. Just allow you to use something else in place of your points that isn't based on charisma, because then it becomes 3 ability score reliant. It's not a bad thing, but it's not helping it. Work the crowd needs to be more than once per short or long rest. Like, yes, once per short or long rest is good, but I think if it could be used maybe twice per short or long rest, or proficiency bonus number of times per short or long rest, or hell, if they just added a clause where you can use a moxie point to use this again, I think it would still not be as good. It's better to have more uses of an ability without expending a resource than it is to expend a resource to use an ability again. High Flyer, once again, I think they just need to remove the jump distance and it would be fine. It wouldn't be good for an 11th level ability. You really need some supplemental damage here because you're missing out on a 3rd extra attack. And this needs to do more damage. Because right now it is falling behind in the monk department. Like, it's falling behind from the monk's perspective way too far. Because they got the ability to take the dash action at level 2. Level 1. 2. It's 2. So you're already losing out on damage there, Buckaroo. And the signature move just straight up needs to be overhauled. It needs to do either more damage, it needs to get better conditions, it needs to be used more times, it needs to have something that can equate to the power of turning somebody into a dragon and breathing a fire cone that on average deals about 90 points of fire damage in a 60-foot cone. It needs something. That's going to be a theme you guys are going to figure out about subclasses with marshals. Their capstone abilities need to be good. Either way, that is the first episode of the subclass homebrew review for the Pugilist with Arena Royale. In the next episode, we'll be covering the Bloodhound Bruisers, as you see right here. And like I said before, if you like the video, please leave a comment. Tell me what I can do to improve. Like the video, subscribe. And with that, I will see y'all next time. Latest.